thought about the amazing training you were at on 30, 60, 90? Anything pop into your head last night about the session we had? Any additional ahas? I see Billy and Sinead laughing, so I'm not sure if that's because I said I had amazing training, or the idea that you have no more aha.
Both. I did the homework and I got excited, with the SMART plan and what I'd want my executive assistant to do, and
Nice.
just not that something so small could be so big as a result, and especially income wise. So I got re-excited about the opportunity.
Very cool, very cool. And while we haven't been doing the exercises, today we actually have an exercise or two that we're going to do. We're going to do GPSs today. I want you guys to take some time here to do some of that work. So we're going to probably do a little bit more of the exercise than we've done in the past, because this is the shortest session, but it's short because it wants to have time for some of those action plans and some of those steps. So we're going to jump into that today a little bit. So great. Well, I'm glad to see you all here. If you're here, you want to come on via camera, we'd love to see you. If you want to hide behind a closed camera, I completely get that. Sam Ratner, I knew I'd guilt you into turning on your camera. What's up, bud? How are you?
I forgot it was off.
Yeah, it's all good. It is all good. You'll notice I chose my T-shirt today wisely. What does this T-shirt mean? Do we all know?
Leads, listings, leverage, baby.
Leverage. Yeah, the 3 L's. Easy, Sam Ratner. That's not nice. That's a 4th L. That's the 4th L. So, how's everyone doing? I know there's still a lot of people without power. I know our Trumbull office still has no power. A lot of folks in Connecticut still affected. I got mine back on last night at about 7:30. How are you guys all holding up from a power? Obviously, I assume you have power and internet or you wouldn't be here. Everyone holding up okay? You lost your power this morning, Sinead? How's that happen after the fact? So most likely what I know happens in a lot of areas is in order to fix certain areas, they shut down whole grids in order to fix them. So, I know yesterday when I came on, it was like 10 towns came on at once, because they had to shut down that entire grid to be able to service the trees. And it all came on at one time. So, Sam Ratner, you're loving your mother-in-law's place, huh? Awesome. Well, let's jump into this. Share screen. Where is... All right. Today is the last session. Today's focus is on succeeding through others. Where is that? Awesome. So today's session on succeeding through others. So again, probably brings a recap. Again, we first talked about finding talent, how to find, analyze, assess, and then hire talent. Then we went into 30, 60, 90. And again, I can tell you, taking the time to put some of those ideas together on what that 30, 60, 90 looks like. We actually did it yesterday. It was really cool. I'm going to turn this off for a second. And it kind of came from some of the ahas we had on yesterday's call. We had a meeting yesterday afternoon, like 1:30, about our new director of agent services coming on board. And we said, okay, what do we want his activities to be 90 days from now? So we actually started at 90. We started at 90 and said he needs to be doing A, B, C, and D at 90. He needs to be teaching, going into that 4th month, he needs to be teaching 10 classes a month. He needs to be having, 5 consulting calls a week, helping people with their technology. He needs to be able to onboard. He needs to be able to do all these activities. And then from what we wanted him doing in 90 days, we backed into what do we need to be seeing in the first 30 days to know he's on track? And what do we need to be seeing in the 60 days to know he's on track? And then what's he need to be doing in that last third 90 days? So it was kind of a really cool exercise that we went through to put together that 90-day plan. And much like we talked about, we then went back and we're still working on it. What are the specific training classes he needs? So we're actually going in and pulling off the links on KW Connect of the different classes we want him to take, the command classes we want him to take. We actually went in and looked at the neighboring market centers that have some other command classes going on. And we started mapping out the command classes he was going to take that are being hosted by the neighboring market center to be able to make sure he's learning what he needs to do. So kind of what we talked about yesterday with there's no one place to go and find all those links by role. We kind of went and structured that ourselves yesterday. So Michael Guerra, are you without power? It's very dark behind you. I've never seen such a dark room behind you before. So are you hiding in a closet somewhere? So it was a fun exercise to go through, especially following up on our call yesterday. So Billy, I'm glad you kind of went through some of that and put that together. It's really powerful when you put together a strong 30, 60, 90-day plan for somebody. Pull this back up. All right. So this part, as we get into success through others, is all about cultivating momentum. So at this point, come on. At this point, it was your job. Before you went through career visioning, you owned the job. During that first 58 days, right, of that person's hire, that you were doing a lot of the work, the team member was doing less, and you get to that point where you hit the axis. What was the analogy we used at 58 days? What's happening at 58 days that allows you to know you're in the right direction?
They're riding the bike, wobbly.
Yeah, the riding the bike analogy, right? You're holding on to it, you're waiting for the kid to fall off, and then around 58 days, he or she goes flying, and you don't have to worry about a thing. It's so easy. It's like riding a bike. So that's right around 58 days. And then if they're still wobbly at 58 days, what's that conversation look like that we're having? If they're still wobbly at 58 to 60 days, what's that conversation look like? It's hey, we're not quite where I hoped you would be right now. We've got 30 more days to really take this to the next level. Here's the specific action steps. Here's the performance improvement plan, which you guys got copies of that, to make sure you really hit the next 30 days. And at that 90-day mark, the hope is they earn the job, and then they go and they fly with it. And over the next, what I will tell you, and I had this conversation with one of my team leaders a few years ago, while they earn the job, they're still going to be uncomfortable for that first 6 or 7 months. I heard from one of my coaches a long time ago, Michael Fleming, if anyone's here ever coached Michael Fleming. He had said to me a few years ago, whenever you change into a new job, a new opportunity, there's going to be about 6 months of discomfort. For those of you that may have come from other companies, you might have felt that same feeling. That first 4 to 6 months, you felt a little bit, unsettled. And it's right around that 6 months where you really start getting into the groove. And that way, over time, from 6 months on to 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they truly own the job. It's their job. So this is all about kind of amplifying that picture of taking it from you owning it to them owning it, and it happens over time. So again, from 90 days to 3 years, we put a lot of time into the CV process. We put a lot of time into 30, 60, 90. The success through others talks about what do you do from the 90 days to the 3 years. These are the tasks, the activities, the conversations you want to be having on a regular basis throughout your relationship. Again, we've gone through this again, not necessarily going to revisit this. And then I like this. On page 7, I want you to highlight page 7. Underneath the graph, it says, after 3 years of reliable results, they have earned the right to a fresh opportunity. They have earned the right to a fresh opportunity. We're a company about growth and opportunity. And when I have someone come on board, and I had someone do that not too long ago, they said, hey, they see themselves in the job for 18 to 24 months. Then they want to move on to the next one. And I said, well, it's probably be more like 3 to 5 years. I always tell people it's more like 3 to 5 years before you've owned the job to such a level that you're ready for something new. So be careful about promoting people in under 3 years. In our experience, it tends to take about 3 years to get to that point where they're ready for the next level. So again, remember this from the first day, right? Back a month ago. It goes from I do it to we do it to they do it to theirs. The theirs is typically around that three-year mark is where we start feeling people hitting the years. So let me ask you, what's the difference between earning a job and owning a job? What's the difference between earning a job and owning a job? That's an actual live question. earning a job, Michael?
Earning a job means you've learned what your core responsibilities are and you address them and do them. Owning a job is seeing a much broader perspective because the job's constantly evolving. The people that are in front of you are constantly evolving. So you've got to step up and be able to reinvent it into the new voids that you see.
Mm-hmm. You know, I love that. I love a bunch of the things you said in there, but earning is just doing it. Owning is being at finish line versus starting line. I love that, John Kim. The starting line is earning the job. The owning it is I lost my chat box. Where'd my chat box go? There it is. Owning the job is more of that finish line. So I gotta fix this there. And really, when you own a job, is when you start looking at it and saying, "Who can I replace myself in this job?" And that's an important thing to remember. For someone to grow with you, for someone to grow to that next level, I always tell people, you've got to replace yourself before you can find that opportunity. I had a call this morning with a great agent of mine where we were kind of reviewing her current executive assistant's job profile. And we were going through everything that she does, and she's starting to think about that next hire. And when someone owns a job, they're part of the discussion on that next hire. So who here has ever had an admin that brought on a second person, a transaction coordinator or a second admin? Anyone ever go from one admin to two admins? And I can only see 5 people, so I'm not sure if someone else is raising their hand there. But a lot of times that can get funky. By the way, the 5 people I see, so you're aware, is Phyllis Taylor, Billy Pena, Michael Guerra, and India Webster. You're the 4 I'm looking at on my share screen. So no pressure, no pressure. When you hire that second admin, thank you, Sam Ratner. Appreciate you putting that in the chat box. Making the first admin part of the process of that second admin is key. We kind of talked about going deep and not wide in your org chart. So when you're hiring that second admin, you're going to the first admin, you're saying, hey, what parts of your job do you not want to do anymore? And you're going to make that first admin part of the discussion of creating the job profile for that second admin. Because who do you want to manage that second admin? Is that someone that's reporting to you?
Yeah.
No. That second admin, Billy, I love the fact that you took a risk, buddy. I appreciate that. That second admin, if your first admin's a rock star, then that second admin should be reporting to that first admin. That second admin should be going, that first admin should be responsible for the 30, 60, 90. That first admin should be responsible for the accountability discussions, following up on their work, training them, and then consulting them long-term. Because again, as we talked about early on, hopefully you can see this marker. I had a call with a great top team last week. And now this is a $90 million team. A $90 million team. We kind of did their org chart. And this was the Rainmaker. You see that a little bit? And we kind of listed his org chart. Does their org chart look like this? Again, how many people do we say should be direct reports to you at any given time? Remember that from CV? 3 to 5 should be the direct report. So when you have that EA and you hire that second admin should be reporting to the EA. When you have a great buyer's agent and you want to hire a showing specialist or another buyer's agent, you should be using that person as leverage for that. This person might become your lead buyer's agent at that point. So again, you want an organizational chart that's deep, not wide. Yes? No. You guys didn't know I was an artist, did you? Now, for those of you that can't see at home, that's a smiley face, that's a sad face. Okay, this is stuff you don't get in every CV, so you guys are lucky here today. Again, that's all about owning the job versus earning the job. Julie Clerbo, I love that. Owning it, you have full accountability in all levels. When you fail, own it. Fail forward. When you win, credit to others. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting when you're owning something. It's kind of interesting. You take responsibility for the failures, and then you share the successes. I always say I just love being a team leader. because team leader, I spend all day creating happiness in the people around me, and I get all the accolades. And then when things go bad, the OP gets the blame. So it's kind of a good world to be. So this is something, we're not going to do this activity. I want you to save this for homework, but I want you to list all your people. I want you to list all your people that are currently on your team, and I want you to grade them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute best. And when you do that, anyone that's 7 to 10, you want to ask yourself, what would help me make them an 11? Anyone that's 5 to 7, you want to say, what can I do to get these people to be a 10? What do you think you would do for anyone you rate under a 5? Anyone you rate under a 5, you're going to figure out a way to top grade. You're going to figure out a way to top grade. If they're under a 5, you're going to figure out a graceful exit. 5 to 7, you're going to figure out how to take them to the next level. And if you can't get them to the next level, you may need to top grade them. And a 7 to 10, what can you do to make them a little bit better? So again, take this time and kind of do an analysis of your people. Oh, Billy, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I have a situation that obviously when I came from Century 21, they didn't have this type of, training and structure.
They didn't? Really? They didn't?
No,
Sorry.
they suck. So I did it all wrong, right? So I had 2 part-time admins. Now, one of them that's been with me for 3 years, she decided that, that this isn't for her. And I think it's my fault that I didn't take her to new responsibilities and make her feel, special or re-excited or whatnot. But now that I'm hiring an executive assistant, I would want, for her to be my direct contact. But the other part-time who I had, she's been with me for 2.5 years. I kind of feel weird that I'm having a new person overlooking a person who's been with me kind of like, for a very long time. How would that conversation go?
So here's that challenge. And you used a certain word there, right? Well, what was the word he used? Did anyone catch the type of employee he had there? Part-time, right? This is the challenge with part-time. What's that?
And she's really my transaction coordinator.
Right. So let me ask you a question. So you've already hired the second person?
Well, I'm gonna hire her. I'm doing I broke it out to 2 candidates that I'm doing the KPA, the validation, next week. But I am gonna have. I need to September 1st. My other part-time assistant, she's out, and then so I really need to make a hiring decision within like a week, so the other person can train this new person.
Gotcha. So the part-time person that's been with you for 2.5 years that you're concerned with, any chance of her going to full-time?
No.
Right.
Her husband makes good money. She just wants to get out of the house to feel, like an adult instead of being home with the kids and stuff.
Yeah. So then I get that. So I think part of the conversation for me would look like, hey, you know what, Jane, I respect you. I appreciate everything you've done. You are an awesome person. However, I'd like to find a way to grow you more with me and give you more responsibility. But to do that, you would need to be full-time. Any interest in being full-time, Jane? No. So I completely get that. And I don't want to insult you or disrespect you. But the person I hire to be kind of the one overseeing some of my other admin stuff is going to be someone I really need at 40 hours a week. So do I have your permission to allow that person I'm hiring full-time to eventually earn the right to support you as well in your role? Would that be okay?
Those are nice words.
How that verbiage sound, right? Now keep in mind, I'm not going to disrupt the apple cart with the part-time person until this person has earned the job. They have to earn the job first. I'm not going to come in day one and this new EA is responsible for my part-time transaction coordinator. She's got to earn the right to lead that transaction coordinator. So I think part of the conversation, however you phrase it, Billy, is making sure she's aware that she's still reporting to you until the day comes where the new person has done such an amazing job that new person has earned the right, both with Billy and with Jane, whoever your part-time transaction coordinator is, in order to support her at a high level at that point. That make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I would structure it. John Maxwell has this great book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. One of the early levels is positional leadership. That, so someone might think because she's the EA, her position gives her the right to lead the transaction coordinator because that's what her organizational chart says. However, in our world, we believe in earning the right to lead or earn leadership. And that this person, the new person, has to earn the right to lead that person. And it's not going to be day one, but it's something I would outline as part of your 90-day plan. At 90 days, for you to feel comfortable with your new EA, one of the things you should be looking for is, has your transaction coordinator developed a relationship and a respect with your EA where she will take direction from your EA? So that would be one of the milestones I would put in that 90-day plan for the EA job.
Would it also help when we do the hiring? I think one of the steps is to, bring it around to your teammates and stuff, not for their approval, but for, hey, listen, this is the candidate that I picked from the 160 resumes that I went through.
Yep. The group interview. The group interview is
Yeah.
essential in making sure your TC is in that group interview. Yep.
Okay.
You may even give them a little one-on-one time. When I was hiring, I had an assistant MCA in place, and I was hiring a new MCA. As part of the process, I had them spend 15, 20 minutes getting to know each other one-on-one, because that assistant MCA knew at some point they'd be reporting to the MCA. And that could be weird. When the assistant MCA was with me for 3.5 years, from a DOFI into an assistant MCA, and now she's got someone brand new coming in day one that she'll eventually have to report to. You want to spend a little bit more time cultivating that relationship between those two people. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Anyone else have any feedback on that? Or any experiences where you might have done that you might have misstepped? Wow. Friday after a hurricane, no power. You guys are like, how much longer, Mr. Brand? I feel like I'm teaching, high school kids. So I'm just joking there. I appreciate everyone that engages. So when you look at page 13 and 15 in your book, the first thing I want you to do is list all the people in the space below. So Billy, to your part-time person, I'd be interested in seeing what you grade them. And then on page 15, again, 15 in my book, is where it actually shows you what those grades mean. Go to page 15 in your book for a second. Go to page 15 in your book. I love this. So to just give you a description of a 10 is exceeds standards and seeks new opportunities. To a 5, which is occasionally meets standards. To a my favorite, the 1. If you rank someone a 1, what does that mean? What were you thinking when you hired them? So again, anyone that's 5 or lower, I'm going to look at, under 5, I'm going to definitely look at top grading. Anyone that's 5 to 7, I'm going to look at kind of upgrade. And then 7 plus, how do I get them to the next level? So after you assess those people, you rate them, you put the numbers with them, you then go to this next page. Non-talent, talent. So Billy, using your person as an example, your part-time TC, when you look at these different phrases under talent in a role, non-talent, find solutions, shares your goals, knows what they want, actively searching, which category would you put that part-time TC in?
Like I would say a 5.
So
there's again, I don't know who's on this call and who's going to be reporting back to her, but
well, let's all remember. This is a safe space. This is a safe call. Anything we share, what happens on the call stays on the call, right? So what I'm hearing from you, and this is an important message to hear. So I want to make sure you're hearing this, especially someone that's a 5. If you bring talent in, think of it as the NFL. When you bring in a new head coach, what does the head coach typically do? They bring in their own staff. They bring in their own defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, trainers, offensive line coach. They end up changing the whole staff over. So if you've got an organization, and again, I'll go with mine here real quick. I'll just do this here real quick. All right. When I look at mine, OP, do you have a black dry erase? I know you gave me, I think I left one in Basking Ridge yesterday. Team leader, MCA, assistant MCA.
Michael.
Fees. Yeah.
I wanted to share something. I have to take myself off camera.
Sure.
I find that if you take too long to have that conversation with that person that may be struggling in that role, it kind of also acts like cancer. It affects the other people morale on that team as well.
Yeah, without a doubt, and not just on the team, but everyone around you. If you've got someone, and we're not saying that Billy's person is substandard, so we're not talking about that at all, but when you've got someone that's especially below a 5, I'll give you, for instance, I hired an assistant regional operations manager, an assistant ROM a few years ago, and they were in business with me for about 4 weeks, and I was on a call with Keller Williams International, and they'd ask a question that the person should know, and what I got was, and I would actually go on my phone and I would time it. It was as much as 1 minute and 30 seconds before the person would respond. Now, if I don't know the answer to something, I would say right away, great question. I'm not quite sure of that. I'm still figuring out. Can I look into that and get back to you? Something. So when you've got someone around you that's not performing well, it's actually a reflection on you. So not only, Maureen, does it act like a cancer in your organization, but it also is kind of like when you find yourself with losers, you're a loser. It also tells everybody around you that's a reflection of you as well. So it's a double-edged sword of them, Maureen, isn't it?
Yes, they call your question of leadership, or your leadership comes into question.
Yep, without, and I think it's the great way you phrased it there, Maureen. The leadership comes into question. So when you have this, and again, in my example, I added a new person to that role, and I realized relatively quickly, as it was happening, I realized relatively quickly that some of these people here weren't going to be a match for this person. So I kind of set a plan in my head of what I wanted to see over a 6 to 9 month period in order to give them the right to replace a lot of these other positions. And, did a great job in 6 to 9 months. Within about a year to 14 months later, the entire organization changed. So Billy, going back to you for a second, you bring in this EA and they rock it, and they knock it out of the park and they're doing things you've never seen done. There's going to be a point where you may give them the ability to go back and rehire the other folks in the organization. Because again, you don't want everyone reporting to you. So you need to have that person have people that they can lead. Make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Little off topic there. All right.
Michael, I have a question.
Sure.
In coming into fulfill a role where I'll start doing hiring and kind of evaluating these positions, putting together these packets and setting clear expectations. So when I do this activity and come up with, 1 through 10, and then start looking at the talent and non-talent. For existing team members, you just talked about like when you bring in the new head coach and they start reevaluating all these positions, how long do you just start with a 90-day fresh for those who are already in place in positions?
So I'm not sure if I understand you. You bring in a new person, right? You bring in a new employee and you put them on a 90-day plan.
Right. So, but if you're coming in new to the position of, like, you're the one that replaced or filled a new role for a team.
Gotcha.
And there are people in those roles already, and you're evaluating who's working and who's not working, or, where we're at on the 1 through 7 here. or 1 through 10, I mean, in the talent, would you implement and start fresh from a 90-day plan to see if they're fulfilling the expectations of a role, even though they've already been in the position for a long time, but I haven't been in the position?
Gotcha. So how long have you been in your position, Rebecca?
So in taking over this role, I'm just stepping into like a DO role. I was a TC, so I'm somewhat familiar with the team, but just started looking at each role and figuring out who needs to be doing what to make this team successful.
So here's an important thing. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. When you're coming into a world where you're the new leader, right? So maybe it's a new team leader in a role, or director of operations, or an MCA overseeing DOFIs, DASs. If you're coming into a new management role where you're overseeing others, you do nothing for 90 days. You make no changes for 90 days. If there's a picture crooked on a wall, you leave it crooked on the wall. So whenever a new leader, a manager comes in, the first thing that happens, they'll create some fear. Create some fear. What's going to happen? What axe is going to come down? Who's going to go? So first thing, you come in, you spend 90 days in what you do in a managerial or leadership role. During that 90 days, you spend the 90 days building relationships with everybody in the team. Building relationships, getting those deposits in the emotional bank accounts. You know, I think we might have talked about that during CV, where you're building the relationships, because you need to have a positive balance in the emotional bank account in order to take a debit. You can't debit if you don't have a balance, because then you're going to go in the red. And once you go in the red in the emotional bank account, you'll never go positive again. So you're going to come in and you're going to make some deposits, build some relationships, and really start making your mark. And hopefully that 90-day mark, people have a respect for you. You've now accomplished things. You're doing things. You've got some momentum going. So that's that earned leadership opportunity. Then it's from that 4 months to that 6 months. Now keep in mind, during that 90 days, you are doing the evaluating. During the 90 days, you are doing the evaluating. Then during the 4 month to 6 months mark is where you might start meeting with some people and doing some assessments of how they're doing, and doing some of the evaluations that we showed yesterday. And perhaps putting some folks on some personal improvement plans. My brother, he's vice president of PR and marketing for a large Jefferson Health, a large hospital system in Philadelphia. And when he came on, he instantly had a staff of 15 that were ultimately all under him. And the challenge when you come in and you inherit a staff is they're all working at the level and the pace of the former manager. And that former manager is probably not there for a reason. So typically you're going to have to make some changes, but around that 90 days, as you start doing the evaluations and you start doing the personal improvement plans, you might have scripts like, hey, Rebecca, you know, there are some things you're doing very, very well. And I'm sure with your last manager, it was meeting their expectations. I have a slightly different style. So I want to spend the next 30, 60 days helping you understand my style, some of the things I'm looking for. I love to find a way for us to succeed together. So you're going to do some evaluations, some personal improvement plans in order to get them to understand what you're looking for. And then you're going to look at probably making some hires around that 6 month mark, as long as everything's going in the right direction.
Perfect. Thank you.
Did I answer your question okay?
Yes.
I noticed Christine unmuted before. I'm not sure if you had a comment in there, Christine, or something you wanted to share, or if it was just an accidental unmute, but I figured I'd ask that question. Okay. Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. I'm gonna kind of maybe go a little bit less to the PowerPoint. Every time I go to the PowerPoint, it kind of breaks the rhythm a little bit. So do I have you okay to kind of refer to the book a little bit more versus the PowerPoint? I like being able to see 20 of you versus 5 of you. So on page 19, I think this is a great visual. Spend your energy for results. Spend your energy for results. And to Rebecca's point, and to Billy's point to some degree as well, are you spending a lot of energy for a small amount of results? Or do you spend a little bit of energy for big results? You know, there's an old saying, let me see if I can butcher it. You're better off giving an average idea to a talented person than a great idea to a non-talented person, right? You're better off giving an average idea, because an average idea with a talented person, who was yesterday talking about the book, The Force Multiplier? who talked about the force multiplier yesterday? Billy, thank you. Can you kind of give people a quick picture of what the force multiplier is? That's Adam Horgenrother's book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Adam is a big, I don't know the KW terminology, but he has like 5 businesses in Vermont.
Yeah.
And
He's what we call an empire builder. He's an empire builder, right?
Yeah. So what happens is he has a business that he's created, and he can't be doing it all at once. So he has this person who basically runs his whole life, and Holly, and basically he talks about how there's EAs and executives, but for the most part, there's no system or book or guidance on how to marry them together so they can work side by side and growing together. So, he talks about how important it is to have that right person next to you to make your job so much easier so you can focus on your 20% so they could do what you need them to do. So it really helped me understand that when I was reading this book, I'm like, everything that I was feeling that, where's this ideal executive assistant? And I'm like, that doesn't exist until I, listened to the audio, and I'm like, why am I, short selling myself where I can have talent, I can have quality, I can have, that perfect person as long as I take the time to look for it. So that's the reason why, and that was referred to one of my MAPS coach that told me about it. And then he's like, why, whoever, going back to what you said, whoever you hire is going to be a reflection on you. So, is that person that's doing it, are they making you look better than what you are, or are they making you look worse, so to speak? So that's the reason why I'm having.
Are they multiplying you or subtracting you? And what I like about the force multiplier, the way Adam describes it is like this. If you have a force multiplier in your life, you're going to get with that person. You're going to get them 5% of the way there. You're going to take an idea, and you're going to work with this person to get to 5%. This person is then going to take your idea and take it from 5% to 90%. And then you're going to come back in and you're going to work together to take it from 90 to 100%. So that's what a force multiplier does for you, is they take care of 85%. You lay the foundation, you put the cherry on top, and they build the sundae. Make sense? So if you don't have that book, it's definitely a great book. And when we're looking at this page of energy versus results, a force multiplier is someone you can put a little bit of energy in to create a lot of results. And that's a concept I want you to have for the people that you're looking to hire. Thank you, Billy, for sharing that. I appreciate it, bud.
Thanks.
Michael?
Yeah.
Michael, could you repeat the name of the author?
Adam Horgenrother and Holly, they wrote the book together, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
So,
Emily, do you have that
I
book in your
didn't get
hand
the last
somewhere?
name, please.
Force multiplier? Did we order those? Force multiplier, Adam Horgenrother. Billy, would you mind typing his name into the chat box?
Yeah, that would be nice. Thank you.
Yep.
So I think Emily just went to grab it. I got a few of those books here. I'm going to see if I can grab one and show you what the cover looks like. So again, I do like this on page 21. Julie Corbo, you rock, man. Thank you. Julie Corbo just put the link in the chat box for the book for Adam Horgenrother, actually. So there's a 3-step process. There's a 3-step process to succeeding through others. I do want to. There's a 3-step process for the success through others. Number 1 is thinking big. You've got to have a big vision for where you're going. We started the beginning of career visioning with that. Then you've got to seize the opportunity, and that's both you and them. You're seizing the opportunity of the relationship you're having together, and you're going to train them and empower them. And then the key is the empowerment part, because you're going to empower them to succeed. They've got to come up with some of their own ideas in the process and find their own path, because as we talked about yesterday briefly, someone's much more committed to their ideas than they are committed to someone else's ideas. And we'll talk more about that as we go. I mean, this is an interesting saying, the success through others process works equally for all types of teams. So know that if you've got a strong agent team, watch what your market center team is doing, because the market center team should be modeling for you. Should be modeling for you how to grow a great team, and hopefully the region is modeling for the market centers how to build a great team. And Gary Keller models for the regions on how we should be building a great team. So our entire world's about modeling. Our market center team, they do their team huddles every morning in the common area. One office is in the reception. The other office is right in the middle of the kitchen, because they want other teams to see what they're doing, what they're talking about, in order to model the team huddle for them. So look at our entire world as a modeling feature. We're going to come to ahas before break. We'll come back to ahas in a minute. So let's talk about thinking big. Again, we talked about this a little bit in career visioning. You want to have a big world, like Gary Keller does, the entrepreneurialism, a big world so people can grow a big business within your world. We all remember this graphic, right, from CV? And this is where we're actually going to jump into a little workout session here. We talked yesterday about the GPS. We talked yesterday about a GPS. What's the GPS? What's the GPS?
135. Goals, priorities, strategies.
Yep. The one big goal, the 3 priorities, then the 5 strategies to accomplish that goal. So I want to do this actually. Did anyone, first of all, raise your hand if you have a GPS already? Great. Did anyone after yesterday's class go and create a GPS? Maybe not. I want to take 10 minutes. And I want you to each spend about 10 minutes working on a GPS. Now, don't take this 10 minutes to return a phone call or return that email or send back that text. I'm going to ask when we get back how many of you got the start of the GPS. So with that GPS again, I want you to think, what's your one big goal? What's your one big goal for the second half of this year? It's August to December. What one thing, if you accomplish, if I call you up on December 31st and said, how was your second half of your year? And you said to me, it was amazing. It was fantastic. I couldn't believe with how the year started that it could end this good. What's the one big goal you would have to accomplish in the second half of the year to be able to say that? I want you to put that one big goal here. Then I want you, in this 10 minutes, I want you to think, what are those 3 priorities? What are the 3 priorities you would have to focus on in order to be able to make that one big goal happen? So for instance, if it's a sales volume goal, it's going to be leads, listings, leverage, perhaps, most likely. So what are the 3 priorities you have to focus on? And then hopefully start building out just one priority. Don't worry about the other 2 yet. Take one priority and get at least 2 to 3 strategies that you could do in order to successfully accomplish that priority. Does that make sense? Everyone understand what I'm asking you to do? So let's take 10 minutes. It's 11:15. If you want to turn off your camera, work on it, feel free. If you want to keep your camera on so we can see your face contort as you're thinking, that's okay too. I'm gonna be right here. So if you have a question as you're doing it and you want to ask me a question, just turn your mic on, ask the question. I'm happy to respond to you. So let's take 10 minutes, start working on your goals, your one big goal, 3 priorities, and try to get a couple of strategies for at least one priority. And then let me know if you have any questions. We'll start back up at 11:25. Sound good? Thank you. Okay, you got about 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. So hopefully at this point you got the goal, the 3 priorities, and you're working on 1 or 2 strategies. All right, how do we do? How do we do? Anyone want to share what they came up for with their big goal and maybe 1 or 2 of their priorities? Phyllis Taylor. Phyllis Taylor.
I'm very excited about this little exercise. So
Nice.
my goal is to produce or develop 20 cappers by the end of 2020.
Nice. Now you're a PC coach in your market center, right, Phyllis?
Yes, and I'm
Awesome.
hoping to with something that just occurred. And let's see. So my priority, my first priority is high-level engagement with the agents. And under that, the priorities. That's my strategy. That's my priority. And my strategies are to use the independent and the interdependent and dependent models to encourage, more growth with the agents to get them more business. My second one is referrals to the agents. I want to make sure that there's a clean line between, how I'm referring it and that it's really clear. And then a weekly team huddle to report out, because I find in the team huddles, they actually show up more and they're sometimes a little bit embarrassed if they don't perform. And then scripts mastery and tracking. So those are my 5 strategies to produce high-level engagement in the agents to get them to cap by the end of the year. That's
awesome.
Just one.
Awesome. Thank you, Phyllis, for sharing that part of it. Good luck. I'm excited. Eric Dion.
Yes, sir.
What do you got? What's your one big goal?
So my one goal is to increase company dollar profit by $500,000.
Increase company dollar or increase profit?
No, I'm going to increase. That's a good question. I put company dollar.
Yeah. So I thought you said increase company dollar profit. I was confused. So increase company dollar by $500,000 by the end of the year. So what are your 3 priorities for that?
So I have here recruit 20 cap equivalents. I have also increased our existing agent company dollar by $150,000.
Okay.
And then the third one that I have is by streamlining expenses, so that we scale up, but we don't spend more. We actually spend less.
So keep in mind, the expenses don't really connect to the primary goal of company dollar.
Good point.
So if it's increased company now, if your goal was profit, then your 3 makes sense. If your goal is increase profit by X, add cappers, drive productivity and streamline expenses would be the right 3 if the big goal was profit. Give me 2 of the strategies under the recruit 20 cap equivalents. 2 of the strategies. Did you have any strategies for that?
I did. I actually got a couple. So the first strategy to recruit the 20 cap equivalents is, basically leverage more of the ALC and really have, the way that I wrote it down is leverage more of the ALC, disappearing cap, have that be much more of a conversation, ongoing conversation with them to attract them to get into those conversations with other agents so we can get into recruiting meetings. The second one is have the whole team focus on making the green sheet, what I like to call the green sheet calls. So it's not just me making those green sheet calls. When somebody closes, it's the MCA, it's my PC coach Phyllis, it's myself. So that we're—
Phyllis, you're busy.
I'm busy as hell, man. I'm busy. Oh my God.
So I'll just give you one suggestion.
She doesn't even know about that strategy yet, Michael. So you're making me surprise her with that.
I'm going to challenge you one more time with the engage the ALC, make it more specific and measurable. How many referrals do you want to get from the ALC in the second half of the year? So don't say engage them specifically. How many referrals will you get from them? Because that's something that you can measure. You can't really measure engagements, but you can measure referrals.
Good point.
Awesome. Great job, Eric. Do we have an agent that wants to share what I saw Billy and Tabitha. Let's go Tabitha and then Billy. Tabitha, what was your one big goal?
Well, so I'm technically a director of sales, so I did more of that focus. So if you want to do Billy for agent and jump back, or
let's do director of sales. I love it.
So 40 million in team production, and through systems and support, coaching and supporting the agents, and growth through 2 expansions and 6 agents in our Florida team.
Great. And give me so one of those priorities. What was the second priority again?
Coaching and supporting the agents.
So what would be the one or two? Which one do you have strategies around? Do you have strategies around any of them so far?
All 3 of them, I have 4, 5, and 4. So under coaching and supporting agents, utilizing the command pipeline and tracking tool better. Awesome. A daily check-in on their lead follow-up from the leads the previous day, because that's where most of the ball is dropped. And then end of week, this is from you, implementing the end of week cash exercise for all the positions, the buyer's agents, the listing agents, the admin. And then do 1 team training a week. We do it right now, but have it a little bit more specific to the lead gen levers versus extra support. And then implement script practice again. We do a morning huddle, but implement weekly script practice 2 times a week.
Very cool. You mentioned Florida. Which market center are you in?
So we're in the Boca Raton Market Center down here in Florida, and then we're up in New York and New Jersey as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Exciting. What team is that?
The Carp Group. I previously ran Jackie Ellis's team, and now I'm over here.
Awesome. Great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
Billy, what's the one big goal?
So my goal from now until the end of the year is to get another 24 closed deals. My goal was 50 units, 20 million of volume. So right now we're at 12 close. We're at I need another 24. So I figured that if I get 8 buyers, in the next 3 months, that would have enough time. That would give enough time to close by December. So I broke it down to, leads, listings, and leverage. Under leads, I have, revisit my past clients, focus more on referrals, marketing, more focus on social media, stay focused on my CRM, and then out and about, meaning me going and being more proactive and me personally getting, people interested.
Awesome. So I love what you're doing there. Can I challenge you a little bit? I know I can, because you don't mind when I challenge you. With the leads, I want some of those specific measurable ones. How many buyer appointments do you need, per week, per month, in the next X amount of time? How many listing appointments? I love the fact that you said that you've got to get them under contract probably by October for them to truly close this year. So really, when it comes to those leads and appointments, those are kind of like a 3-month goal. Because those leads and appointments have to occur in August, September, October in order for you to have a chance at getting those things under contract and closing by the end of the year. So I would tell you to really get down to the granular of how many listing appointments, how many buyer appointments, how many contracts perhaps.
So I was thinking of, I wrote it down on the whole SMART thing, so 3 buyers consultations a week and 3 sellers consultations a week.
Awesome.
And then from there, since I've been getting a lot of, I'm losing tons of business with buyers. So if I got 10 buyers, if I were to, send 10 buyers a week, home searches, that's 40 a month. I think I'd be able to, to get, 8 out of the 40 to, getting an offer accepted.
Let's look at this real quick. So it's 6. I'm hearing 6 appointments a week between buyers and sellers, correct?
Yeah.
I'm hearing that right?
Correct.
6 appointments a week. Again, August, September, October, we've got about 12 weeks. So that's going to give you the ability to have 72 total appointments. What's your conversion on appointment to, let's split this between buyer and seller, right? So let's look at
price that we have on.
Let's say 60%.
Hey, Barry, you have a loud mic, Barry. I'm going to mute. So
Sorry.
No problem. On the buyer side, of those appointments, how many of them do you think will result? What percentage do you typically see result to?
I would say, let's say 60%.
Okay, so that 60%. 18. I mean, you've got almost 18, 21 right there. Roughly, I'm doing math in my head. If anyone wants to do that math, feel free. And then again, with the seller appointments, not all of them may close this year, but I would also go and do the same conversion numbers here. So it seems like you might get close to it on just the buyer side without even worrying about necessarily the seller side. Make sense?
Yeah.
Now, we do know, though, any listings you take in the next 3 months will sell this year.
Yeah.
As we all know, listings are king right now. Our listing inventory is down in northern New Jersey considerably over last year. We've got a shortage of inventory. So this is not a bad place to focus. And some things to focus on there is find those neighborhoods where the under contracts are happening and send mailers to those neighborhoods. Hey, not sure if you heard, there was a home in your neighborhood, had 6 offers on it. We've got buyers waiting to move into your neighborhood. If you or anyone you know is looking to sell, please call me today. So definitely use some of those urgency scripts and urgency marketing to be able to convert listings today. Makes sense? Thank you. Thank you, Billy. That was awesome, man. Barry, no problem. Hey, Barry, send an email to kwrg27@kw.com or private message Emily. Emily's in the chat. Private message Emily. She can take care of that for you.
Oh, right? Sure. You're talking about the goal plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I owe you a phone call. So schedule it with Emily. So
okay, I'll reach out.
Awesome. Sure. All right. So guys, ahas from that exercise. Ahas from the GPS. How we do?
Worked for me.
Worked for
yeah,
you?
I mean, I was able to just take that chart and all the things that have been on my brain to do, because generally speaking for me, it's in my head and then it actualizes. But it was good to put it down on paper and, analyze the individual steps to get there.
Awesome. That's just it. This is by having a specific measurable plan. So the more you can actually put numbers in there that you can measure and shoot for, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, I think mine was too general. I probably need to plug some numbers into it.
Yep. Without a doubt, it's got to be specific. Team leaders, how many appointments, how many gross, how many net, agents, how many listing appointments, how many buyer appointments, how many listings taken, how many buyer representation agreements, how many under contracts, how many closed. And again, use those MREA conversion numbers in order to get from one to the other. India, I love that. You'll include a 1-3-5 exercise with your Capper Mastermind on Monday. People, this is a great exercise to get you laser focused on what you need to do. And it's funny. I was leaving my neighborhood this morning. One of my neighbors was walking his 2 dogs, and he runs a rather big accounting firm. And I said, "Hey, what's your big rock these days?" He goes, "Just trying to get people into action again." People have gotten so comfortable sitting back and doing the bare bone minimal this last couple months. They never really came out of quarantine fully. So this is a great tool to help you get laser focused and get you into taking action. Because here's the thing, for all of us, you've got to be taking action right now. You can't wait. Why? There's a pretty good chance we'll see quarantine again by the fall. there's a chance by October into November. And New York, our folks in New York, Michael Guerra, I just gave you heartburn, didn't I? New York, that saw a 95%, 100% shutdown in the ability to do real estate activity. You've got to get as much business written as you can in this next 3 months, because we'll have no control over what happens come October. So again, be focused, be specific, make sure you're taking massive action, because we might see ourselves in a whole new environment come sometime in flu season. Any other questions on the 135?
So, and my comment is the next step being to translate what we've written down on that 135 onto our daily calendars.
Yep.
And do put it into the week, and then have the actions on a daily basis to get us to that conclusion.
Yeah, and without a doubt, and I'll be real with you, Debbie, I'm not a big 4-1-1 guy. I work off of the 135, but if you take a 135, so let's just say, Billy's goal was 36 appointments, over the next 3 months, which means no, sorry, that wasn't right. What was it? 6 times 4 was 24 appointments a month, right?
Michael, that's what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I find I do the 134. I'm sorry,
Yep.
135. Take that and put it on the 1411.
Yep.
Because it makes it so much clearer for results.
Yep, without a doubt. So you're going to take. Let's just use some numbers here as an annual type of thing, so I can work with it easily. Let's say the goal is 120 appointments a year, and with that, 24 listings taken per year, and 24 buyer's agency agreements a year. Just using that as a for instance. This would be your annual goal, which you would then break down to your monthly, which your monthly would be 120 appointments would be 10 appointments a month, which would be divided by 12, 2 listings taken per month, 2 buyer's agreements a month. So again, you would then take that down to weekly, right? I don't know if you can really see the bottom very well, but the weekly would then be, 2.5 appointments, 2.5 appointments, 2.5 appointments, 2.5 appointments. And then, one list, one buy. When you've got less than 4 in a month, I always put the goals in the first 2 weeks, because if you miss it here, let's say you don't make it here, you then can roll it into here. And if you only do 1 here, you can roll the other one into there. So if your goals end up being less than 4 of anything, you always front load that in the first week and then roll them into it. So there's some great tools out there to be able to track it forward a month. So yes, Debbie, thank you, Maureen. This is a way of taking it from a big goal down to a daily and a weekly. So again, 4 weeks go into 1 month, that go into 1 year, which is the concept of the 4-1-1.
Hey, Michael,
Yeah.
mine, I may need some help with plugging in the numbers. Mine was more structural, just as and just get some feedback on it real quick. Can I run it out?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're analyzing that we're somewhere between 4 or 5 on the program on the as far as the stage MREA stage, and
Okay.
so the goal is to get to stage 6, and then the plan was in respect to ISA, barn, and database. Now, from there, I just need to put in specific numbers as far as to drive those strategies.
Yep. So your goal is more of an organizational growth goal.
Correct.
So if you're going from 5 to 6, part of that is going to be hires, because you got specific hires you need to make to get from 5 to 6. You're also going to have production, because to be able to fund those new hires, you're going to need to increase your production as well. So you're going to have some production drivers, with probably some other, probably some more leads in order to drive the production to be able to focus on the organizational. But yeah,
That's all in there as far as the plan. I just didn't put numbers to it.
Yep. And again, we'll take that offline or one-on-one call. Barry had bid on consulting appointments with me as part of as part of a charity auction sometime back. So I owe you that appointment. So let's get that scheduled, Barry.
I'll reach out to Emily.
You got it. Awesome. Guys, let's, it's 11:43. While we did that little breakout before, that wasn't a break. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. Because I didn't actually take a break when you guys were doing that.
No, it's no bother. I don't mind showing.
I've got feedback from somebody. Who is that? Emily, do you see who that is?
To see proof of funds. So if you can
I want to find who's got a live mic because it's always fun.
at kw.com.
Normally the person lights up on me.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, well, guys, let's take a quick 5-minute break. It's 11:44. Let's get back together here at 11:49, and hopefully we'll figure out who that person is and shut them off before then.
There are people still living there, so I would say it's in good shape.
All righty, we'll get back together here. I got a great view of Sally Petricatella's keyboard. I love it. I love it. that was one of the nicest keyboards I've seen yet today, Sally. I got to compliment you there. So we'll jump back in. And I'm going to jump around a little bit because there's some great exercises in here on what are your growth opportunities, seizing the opportunity, and that stuff that I want you to feel free to take a look at. But I really want to spend the rest of the time we have together focused on really how you lead them and how you reconnect with them and how you push them. And I'm in the book, jumping right up to page 49, up to 49. So as you're leading them over time, and you might want to do this even quarterly. If you find that their performance is suffering a little bit, could also be another time to do it. You want to constantly revisiting their motivational story. You want to constantly revisiting that motivational interview. Part of leading them long-term is always reconnecting with some of those things that they said to you early on was important to them. Was it money? Was it job? Was it family? Was it, building a business, passive income, whatever that was. Every so often you want to kind of get back together with them and bring those original documents. Did you do it on a flip chart? Did you do it in a notebook? Well, however you did it, you want to keep that in their file somewhere. That way, 6 months down, 9 months, a year down the road, when you sit down and have this motivational story review with them, you can kind of pull that out. What does that do when you pull that out? That flip chart page, and you unfold it and put it up on the wall a year later. What does that do for you and for the relationship?
Shows you actually even care and you listen to them.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that you care, you listen to them. It reconnects. I mean, think about who's taken these classes more than once. Who's taking these classes more than once? The first time you take a class is like, what is going on? And the second time, okay. The third time, okay. When they were going through the job interview, it was such a haze for them because there was probably so much stuff going on in that stage of their life that that motivational interview story was kind of a blip. So when you go and bring this out, it reconnects for them that original process they went through for you, which really does amazing things for the relationship. And again, you may want to do this 6 months in because you might find how they feel right now about their motivation versus how they felt when they were interviewing might be very different. So you want to kind of take this out. There's actually a form on KW Connect that link we went to yesterday. Did we all save that link? Did you guys all save that link as a favorite, I hope? In there was the whole folder about, after the hire documents. There's a great form in there about revisiting their motivational story. And actually, on the next page, page 50, is what that form looks like, the motivational story review. Hey, let's put it up. Here's your job, here's money. Those are the first two categories for all the motivational stories. Here's your job, here's money. So you said, here's where some of your goal in your job. How are you doing so far? What did you achieve so far? What did it do for you? Have your leadership and vision changed? So you just kind of ask them some of these questions on each of those four categories to see how we're doing. Are we on track? So this is a kind of a great way to reconnect with them. And if maybe they're not performing great, this is a great time to come back and say, hey, listen, when we first met, you shared with me some of your goals in the future, A, B, C, and D. So, are these still accurate? Are these still valid? Is this still what you want to achieve as far as your income and your job goals? And I've actually said it because I've actually said this kind of like this, because unfortunately, how you're performing right now is not going to help us get there. So what do we want to adjust? Do we want to adjust what your goals are? Or do we want to adjust some of the things you're doing in a performance that might help us get there a little bit faster? So again, especially for someone that's buyer's agent, listing specialist, team leader, productivity coach, someone whose income is based on growth of sales business, you want to constantly reconnect the motivational story with their performance in order to kind of push them. Because here's the thing, you can't motivate people. No matter how great you think you are, you cannot motivate a person. All you can do is, if a person is someone who is motivatable, all you can do is reconnect them back with what motivates them. in order to get them back on track. So the idea of motivating someone is actually a myth. All you can do is reconnect someone with their motivation, but they've got to move themselves forward. All you do is light the match. On page 50, again, 51 has priority 3, priority 4. And on page 52 kind of gives you some of the scripts for reviewing their original motivational story. Hey, when we originally created your motivational story, we were considering going into business together. In that activity, we decided our priorities were in alignment and that this role would get you closer to the things that mattered most for you. Let's revisit that story and check off what you've achieved. So again, I love that first statement. We decided that our priorities were in alignment, for you to take this job to accomplish some of those long-term goals. Let's see how we're doing. And then again, go through these different questions. Let's revisit, check off what you've achieved. Let's reconnect and work together to construct your new story. So again, great dialogue here to take them through the revisiting of their original motivation story. And then secondly, because again, you might find something's changed, it also gives you some dialogue on how to construct a new motivational story in order to take them into a new direction. Or here's what also might happen. You might have been so successful, you've already checked off that box. You've already accomplished that objective. They said one of their motivations was buying an investment property. Okay, great, check, we've done it. What's next? I'll build up passive income of $5,000 a month. Great, we did it, check. What's next? So revisiting the motivational story is important for 2 reasons. The first one being, if they're underperforming, to reconnect them to that to make sure it's still valid and get them back on track. Or if they're succeeding at a high level, they're achieving these things. And I don't know if I mentioned in Career Vision, the first time I met Mark Willis. Mark Willis was one of our former CEOs. Mark got into that motivational interview. Where do you see yourself 15 years from now? How much money in the bank? How much do you have in stocks? How much do you have in bonds? How much do you own in business? Where your kids going to college? And he said, again, you got to be very clear on your goals, because the clearer you are on your goals, the easier it is for me to help you accomplish those goals. If I'm helping you accomplish the goals, you'll never want to be in business with anybody else. That's the purpose of the motivational story, is they're setting up with you some life goals. And if you're helping them accomplish them, they're going to be very, very happy. Who's ever read The Dream Manager? Is that Matthew Kelly, The Dream Manager? Write it down. It's a 2-hour read. It's a very easy read. It's called The Dream Manager. I believe it's Matthew Kelly. And he tells a story that's kind of like a parable. He tells a story about a cleaning company, a house cleaning company. And they have, who's ever had a cleaning service, whether it be in your house or your business? Anyone ever hire a cleaning service? Have you noticed that they turn over people a lot? Quite often, actually. So this tells a story of a guy that comes into a cleaning service, and he realizes they have a 90% turnover in their employees. And he kind of walks through the process of what he did to understand the dreams that these people have and the goals. And then he worked to help them accomplish the goals. And the whole story shows how he went from a 95% turnover to almost 0 turnover. Because when you're helping people get what they want, then they're never going to want to be in business with anybody else. And the motivational story and reconnect with the motivational story is part of that. So please, 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 3 books that you should be looking at. Everyone should always have The 5 Levels of Leadership from John Maxwell. That's a longer read, but the 2 quick, easy reads that you can read in a weekend or in a couple of nights is The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly and The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Those 2 second books are quick books, easy reads that will really help you in some of your team building focus quite a bit. What books have you guys read? What books have you guys read? When you look at building the team and doing what you've done, what are some books that you've read that have really shaped what it is that you're doing?
I'm in the middle of Traction.
Nice.
It's a great book. I'll try to put it in the chat box.
Awesome. Hey, what give us one highlight from Traction?
It really involves a lot of the things that we've already built in, which is, getting the right people in the mix, getting the huddles going like you're talking about, and building a team.
Awesome. Again, getting traction, right?
Yep,
Sinead Hennessy, Fierce Conversations. Thank you. And Fierce Conversations, great book, a great training, which is awesome. The Power of Other. Townsend. Billy, what are you reading?
Eat That Frog.
Classic. Eat That Frog. And if you've never read it, right now is a great time to read Who Moved My Cheese again. I remember reading Who Moved My Cheese, back in 2000, 2001 perhaps. And right now it's more relevant than ever. But Eat That Frog and Who Moved My Cheese are definitely classics. Tabitha, what are you thinking?
We're reading 168 Hours, if you've read that before, by Vanderkamp. We have 168 hours a week, and it shows how much time we actually waste, and it's all about breaking down your time and managing it better, and it's super, super powerful, especially if you have kids or running multiple businesses. It's a really great exercise. We're actually tracking every 15 minutes for a week straight. Very painful, but definitely a great exercise and a great book so far.
Yeah, and that's great to think about. I mean, 168, and I look at going back to a 40-hour work week. We have a 40-hour work week. What can we accomplish in 40 hours? However, if you have a team, we have 10 staff members in my one market center. So we have a 400-hour work week. What are we accomplishing in 400 hours a week? It should be pretty phenomenal stuff, right? So when you start breaking down the hours and especially multiplying it by team members, it kind of expands your vision as well of how much can you accomplish with 400 hours a week. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else want to share before we move on?
Sure. Michael, this is awesome. I like it. Never split the difference.
Okay. Very cool. Give us a quick highlight on that.
It says negotiating as if your life is dependent on it. We negotiate every day, don't we?
It does feel like our life depends on it most days as well.
Yes, especially right now.
That is for sure. So thank you for sharing that, guys. Page 55. It talks about sharing your vision, offer the opportunity, confirm alignment. So again, this is about growth here. As the person is killing it, they've been with you for 2-3 years, and they're looking to go on to the next step. Step 3 is preparing that person for the next opportunity. And this talking about, hey, you've done a great job. We've done great things together. We've accomplished X in our 3 years together. Now my revised vision is Y. And this allows you to take them to a whole new level. I tend to not go too deep into the weeds here because a lot of us are just hiring that person now. But I would tab this page or mark something in your calendar 3 years from now. Go back and revisit page 55 of Success Through Others and see if Jane, who you hired on this date, is ready for this discussion yet. So again, if you've just hired someone, go and mark a date 3 years from now to revisit page 55. Has this person earned the right for the next opportunity? And if not, you have to kind of do an assessment on where you stand with the person at that time. Questions, thoughts, comments so far? Just jump ahead here. I'm going to jump back to this. There you go. Cool. So again, we're talking about this process now. They've earned the job. They're killing it. You've been with them for multiple years, and they've earned the next opportunity. They've earned that next level of things. So again, hopefully they're one of those big circles in your world to the right. Hopefully they're on that side of it. And at this point, you should really be taking them, and I'm not going to say 3 years, 6 months and 9 months in, you should be helping them build their GPSs. what does their world look like? We talked about you building your GPS earlier, but in the beginning, they're gonna be part of your plan. Eventually, you want them to create their own plan. If they come to you and say, "Hey, I'm challenged with something. I'm struggling with this. I'm having a challenge with that," that would be your signal of it's time for them to get into their own GPS, where you can say, "Okay, let's break that down. What's the challenge? What's the problem? In a perfect world, what's that fix going to be? And what's the one big goal that would resolve this challenge?" And you can use this GPS process as a way to guiding them in order to get to their next level. And again, we talked about 4-in-1s, we talked about GPSs, so we've kind of jumped around a little bit. I don't necessarily need to go back into that. But again, how often do you think you should be, well, first of all, how often should you be looking at your GPS? How often should you be looking at your GPS? Sam, you mentioned it the other day. Michael?
Well, GPS monthly, but I'm doing 411 daily and weekly.
Daily.
Yeah, 411 daily and weekly. A GPS you can look at daily, weekly, monthly as well, at the absolute minimum monthly. And then you look at how often should you revise it. You may need to be revising your GPS monthly. When you get to the end of the month and you review what you accomplished, if you're not hitting it, that causes you to revise both your GPS and your 4-in-1. If we just came out of a month and the goal is 20 appointments a month and we hit 15, well, we need to go to next month and figure out what we're doing with the 5 that we missed. And you're gonna see yourself constantly revising these things. And that's the art in this. A lot of people create these GPS, these 4-in-1s once a year. They create their plan, then they put it in a drawer. They don't look at it again. So by looking at a daily, weekly, monthly, you're constantly focused on your results and constantly making the adjustments to make sure that while you might miss it for the week or the month, you can still hit it for the year. And this year, that happened a lot. Again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. We created goals back in November. We threw out those goals in April, and then we redid those goals in June. So I see us doing that quite a bit this year. Again, what this is talking about here is actually teaching them how to do what we're talking about doing. So everything we've talked about, the GPS, finding them talent, 4-in-1, at some point in the process, you're going to lead them down the same path. You're going to take that executive assistant of yours, Billy, at some point is going to take career visioning, because you're going to guide her how to find talent to hire her transaction coordinator or 3069 to do that. So all of this part of this class is all about everything you've done. You're now going to teach them and guide them through the process. So this is kind of a cycle that will occur over and over again. So again, I mean, I feel like we jumped ahead there, but it kind of wraps up a little bit quickly and easily. There's lots of scripts in here we didn't go through that you can definitely go back and take a look at. Different ways to do these different expectations conversations. Developing the GPS, a lot of that was repeated on stuff we've already talked about in the last 2 days. But really, at the end of the day, this whole concept that we're talking about here is about preparing yourself to find higher talent, train them at a high level, lead them at a high level. And at some point, if they're talents, you're going to teach them how to do everything that you're doing. And the more people that can find and hire talent, execute 30, 60, 90 plans, and then help lead others to success will make your organization grow astronomically. That's actually the concept of where Keller Williams came from. Gary learned some of these tools from a guy named Bain Henyon. He went out and taught 10 people how to use these tools, who went out and taught 10 people how to use these tools and teach 10 people. And that's what took us from a company of 68 people to a company of 162,000. So again, this cycle never changes. It just evolves and we get more people learning how to do it. Thoughts, comments, questions, ahas on anything in the career visioning, 30, 60, 90, or success through others process?
I'm just going to share, Michael. I've been with the company since 2004. It's been a long time. We started 12,000 agents, and I'm in these classes all the time. And the student shows up when the teacher is ready. The leader shows up when the student is ready, that kind of stuff. And I hear something new no matter when the class is. So I've taken a number of times. Keep taking them, people. Yeah.
Yeah. How many times career visioning? Now, keep in mind, when you started, it was leverage one, and then it turned to recruit select to career visioning.
It was exactly. It was level one. It was RTSLM. It was all of that. Yes. And I've taken each of those. Well, when I was the OP, I probably took it 4 times or so during that, maybe more. Yeah, I've probably taken this class in total 12+ times, and still learning yesterday and today as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Sam. I'll tell you, career visioning, which was recruit select before that, leverage one before that, I've either taken or taught it 55 to 60 times. You know, and every time I take it and teach it, I learn. Because again, every time you take one of these classes, the teacher has a different perspective. You have different people in the room that come with different ahas and different things to share. So it's really a unique experience each and every time. What other ahas, thoughts, comments do you have about any aspect of the leverage series? And then I'm going to ask you if you have any other questions about the market or the company or anything else that you want to cover, because we do have a little bit more time. So I want to give you the opportunity to have any other questions answered that you might have. No holds barred. So open format.
Michael, one thing that resonated with me is when you said you can't motivate someone. All you do is light the match. Because I know that, you know, there are a lot of times I see more in someone than they see in themselves. And that doesn't work, because I can't get them to where they need to be. They have to do the work themselves.
Yeah, and here's the challenge, Lisa, and this is something that I've had to teach myself, is you also can't save everybody. You know, it's you see something in someone, you want it so bad for them. But if they don't want to do their part, there's not a whole lot you can do. So you've got to find that healthy balance of at what point do you cut bait? at what point do you pull the ripcord and make the graceful exit? You know, I just recently had to get out of business with a pretty large team because we just didn't look at the business the same way. And we spent quite a bit of time together trying to figure out the ways to make it work. And it just got to the point where I'm like, you know, it's not a fit. And over the years, I've gotten out of business with a lot of business, a lot of market share, just because we didn't see things the same way. And that's okay. It doesn't mean either of us are right or wrong. We're just not a match. So you've got to figure out at what point have you given everything you can and look at taking care of yourself first, because the energy you're putting into that can bring you bigger results somewhere else, right?
Right.
Thank you for that aha, Lisa. I appreciate it. Just a couple ahas, and then Kelsey, you're up next. Phyllis, the greatest learning comes from the front of the room. Oh, stop. No, it doesn't. The greatest learning comes from the rest of the room, but thank you for that compliment. Lauren Byron, good to see you. Ben Kinney says you can't motivate someone. You can motivate someone, not motivate them. Yes, without a doubt. Motivate is reconnecting them with their motivation and helping them find it. That's aiding them and going after theirs. I love that saying. Kelsey, you have something you want to share?
Sure. I started this whole career visioning in 30, 60, 90 because we just had turnover within our company. So I'm the executive assistant, and then our director of ops left, and then we had a buyer's agent leave, and then before they left, they had hired on like a listing agent. So it was just, everything's just in flux right now. So I like the idea of like meeting with our rainmaker, deciding like what our org chart is now, making sure it goes like 2 people deep rather than everyone straight across, because everyone calls them all the time, and it drives me nuts because it's just like that man needs to have a break. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just trying to figure out how that's all going to work, and then to see what other teams do and learn from other people, like how they're doing like the transition. I think like Rebecca and I are in similar situations where like now then I'll be the director of ops and how everything's going to work within our team. So it's good to know like where we want to go in the future. And just get ideas on that, because then I was hired this way and I'll be hiring people that way. So it's really awesome to see. I took Ashley Lund did the career visioning that I took like a few weeks ago, and it was just awesome how she like you leave everyone better than when they came in, teaching them like the KPA and verifying it and going through that. So it's just awesome to learn about it from that perspective of like, even though you're not going to hire every single person you talk to, you're helping them in their, you know, career journey.
Yeah, and you can make an impact on, you know, I find some of the biggest impacts I made on people was getting out of business with them and others by helping them grow businesses. So to me, there's always an opportunity. And there's always a benefit of a relationship, no matter which direction the relationship goes in. So, you know, but it's like when you're going through a place like you are, it's very important to remember that whole thing we talked about, building the relationships in the first 90, then kind of putting some of those evaluations in place, those performance plans in place, and then decide, I will work exhaustively to try to get someone who's with me to grow and succeed before I've got to go and replace, if I see them trying as well. You know, because you're always better with the person that you're in business with if they're putting the same effort in. So looks like you got great opportunity, honey. Where are you from, Kelsey?
Minnesota, Coon Rapids.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Debbie, do you have something you want to share?
I find that the motivational story is really valuable, whether you know somebody well or are just in business with them. I think it's something that is a real gift to that person, to help them kind of drill down and discover things about themselves and what may be holding them back and where they actually really do want to go. And not only do you get to know each other on especially the person who's giving the motivational story on a very deep level, it's something that person sees as a huge value. Usually, it opens things up for them, and I love that piece.
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean, just it lets you know who you're getting into business with. You know, when I look at getting into business people, you know, values is big. Looking at, you know, their values and who they are, what they're about. Looking at their motivation is big. You know, looking at their track record is big. You know, so I look at a few of those key areas because, again, the bigger you grow, the smaller the world around you need to be. So you can only give yourself to so many people. So you need to choose those people selectively, because then they can only give themselves to so many and so many and so many. So the bigger you grow, the more demanding you need to be in the people that you surround yourself with. Billy, you have something you want to say or share?
So what is your mindset? Because maybe this is like a monkey in my head, is that I have these two people that I'm considering. One has already a job. I kind of feel, you know, kind of concerned that, you know, I get this person so excited to work for me, and then she quits her job. She has 2 kids. And then, you know, how about if she doesn't work out in the next 90 days? Am I going to feel bad that now I just fired her and, you know, she's basically jobless?
Well, here's the way I say that. My favorite people to hire are the people that I've got to make them move to a different state. So what I mean by that is if they're in a job and leave a job for a job, they're motivated even more to succeed. If they change states to take the job, they're motivated even more to succeed. So if someone's sitting back at home and doing nothing, possibly they may not put as much into the job as someone who left something. Does that make sense? So I'll give you, for instance, when I joined KW, I left New Jersey and moved to Massachusetts for a team leader opportunity. I had a non-compete, so I could not work from Southern Connecticut to Washington, D.C. So I physically had to leave the state. So, and my OP kind of taught me that. She goes, I love the fact that you're moving to here, because I know that you're going to be even more motivated to succeed, because that's a big risk you're taking. So the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, Billy. If I had a choice between 2 comparable candidates, one employed, one unemployed, I'm taking the one employed. You know, I was taught by one of my mentors years ago that, you know, he wants to find someone that they can cultivate and grow, then get them to buy a house, get married, have kids. Because the more you build your life up around someone, the more committed they are to you and to what you're building. So again, if I have a choice between someone with a job or someone without a job, go to someone with a job.
Thanks. I wasn't thinking like that. Okay, thank you.
It's my thought. Any thoughts, Rahaz?
Michael.
Yep, Saru.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I did have these aha moments with the GPS specifically in terms of 135 and how we can align them with 411 also. It does bring a lot of clarity into the mind, and especially when you look at the picture like this, as we were discussing in case of Billy, that from going from a single agent or solo agent to trying to build up your team, you know, you got 5 months down the line and how many appointments, and it has to be like 3 months. Within 3 months, you have to take care of that so that, you can accomplish something. So that was a huge level of clarity in there. My question to you over here is, like, I'm trying to understand, if we are looking at this from this as a solo agent perspective, I'm not talking of the people with huge teams right now, then what is the next level that they can go to, and where they can find information if they are just, okay, fine, this is what I did. Now I have to move on to the first hire, the second hire, and the third hire. And I'm looking at this model of 135 that I did during the exercise. And it was a similar model of Billy's, like it was maybe a kind of a starting from 20 million GCI goal to leads, listings, and leverage. I had my 5 strategies in leads, listings, and leverage as well. But it will require the hiring at one point of time. And what are the 3 most important hires that I can go for? Because, as I read earlier, that you should hire only when, you are ready to delegate or you cannot do it yourself. Don't hire till then. So what would be the model that I should look into? And once I've done that, what is the next model that I can look into?
Tabitha, I think it was you that said you worked with Jackie Ellis, correct? Yeah, so Jackie Ellis a couple of years ago came around with that great team building course, which I loved. And in that team building course, it kind of looked like a graph like this. And with that, it kind of said, a single agent can typically get somewhere around 24 to 36 transactions with just you. Somewhere around that mark, and I'll just use 36 for the sake of this. Somewhere around 36, you need to hire an admin. And again, that's the first executive assistant. And that's going to get someone from 36 to about 50, 55, somewhere in that range. And then you have a choice. Gary will tell you plus an admin plus a second admin. Depends on your price point. If you have a higher price point, you could also do you plus a buyer leverage here. So, and then that'll get you up to about 70, 75, and so on and so forth. So, Saru, your first most important hire is the admin. Your first admin hire is the single most important hire. They often say your executive assistant should be your assistant executive. And then, again, I'm looking at my first buyer leverage hire, and then up here, my first listing leverage hire. So I look at, there's 3 key hires: your admin, your buyer leverage, your listing leverage. And those are the 3 hires you want to take a real strong stand with. Because if they're the right people, they can be your vice president of buyers, your vice president of listings. Then they can kind of build that whole organization around you. So if you're a single agent, the first thing to focus on is the admin. What's the biggest mistake single agents make with their first hire? Biggest mistake, they hire buyer leverage
to the buyer's
first.
agent, yeah.
They hire and why do they hire a buyer's agent first?
They got to focus on listings, and
they want the money.
Still have to show
they want the money.
They hire buyer leverage first because it's free in their mind. They don't have to write a check each month. They don't have to pay payroll. They only pay that person when a deal closes. So so I actually, in the conversation I was having with someone this morning, if I'm in my market, we have an average price point of $425. So if I'm a rainmaker, my first hire is my executive assistant, the admin arm. My second hire from a buyer leverage standpoint is a showing assistant. Why would I hire a showing assistant before a buyer's agent?
You can get away with paying him less or her less.
Yeah,
less cost, yeah.
This person might cost me 10 or 15% of the transaction, not 50% of the transaction, right? And here's the real danger by going right to a buyer's agent. Not only are you giving up half the transaction, but you're also giving up the relationship. That buyer, when they 3 years from now, when they look to sell or buy or refer a friend, they're going to think about the buyer's agent because that's who they have the most face time with. I'd rather hire someone as a showing assistant and then promote them to my buyer's agent, and then promote them to my lead buyer's agent, and then I'm showing growth within my world, and then same thing with the listing side. I might start with the listing assistant that can grow to my listing manager, that can grow to my listing specialist. to eventually my listing partner. So, but by doing it this way, you offer promotions and opportunity. However, it's also a question of how quick are you growing? You know, if you're growing by 20, 30% per year, this is the way to go. If you're growing by 200% per year, you'll have to be a little bit more aggressive. So again, how you grow is in direct relation to how fast you're growing and who you hire. So hey, Maureen, you have a live mic. If you can mute your mic there, it'd be awesome. So for most single agents that, you know, there's lots of single agents that are struggling to get the first assistant. This is the model I teach that person. This isn't the model for the Adam Horgenrothers of the world and Ben Kinneys of the world, because this isn't fast enough growth. You know, so for some of our folks that are director of operations, you're well past this point. This is kind of the vision for the person making that first step, that first hire. I'm going to go back to you for a second, Kelsey. I want to make sure I'm clear. What you said before, was that a comment or were you looking for information or what was it a question? I want to make sure I didn't miss an opportunity to help you with something.
Oh, well, I did have a question based on that.
Okay.
We had a weird organization, right? So you've got
We all do.
Okay, good. We're all in the same boat. Perfect. We have like the rainmaker, and then technically then I would move to be like director of ops. And then before the director of ops left, she had hired a listing manager to work.
So as a rainmaker.
Yep.
Where's the director of ops? Over here or down here?
Over what? We don't have an org chart right now, to be honest. We need to make it. We need to fix it. We need help.
So there's your aha right there.
Right.
You know, what I like to do with everyone is do the org chart, and a lot of times the org chart looks like this.
Yeah.
You know, and then say, okay, for this to work right, what does it need to be?
I'm going to add another layer to this because we have the listing manager was to be part-time and then is also a buyer's agent. Have you ever seen that work successfully to have people be both? It's very challenging right now in terms of, you know what I mean, to do two jobs, but they all overlap all the time. Your buyers call you when you're working your other job.
And here's the challenge. It's kind of like in the market center, we don't allow the team leaders to sell because we don't want to compete. When you have a team where the admins also are able to sell, it gets a little funky in the team because then the team members are competing with the admins. So, you know, to me, someone's either got the behavior profile for an admin or they have a behavior profile for a buyer's agent. They shouldn't be able to go both ways. I love that person that says, oh, my first hire is going to be admin 20 hours a week and buyer's agent 20 hours a week. If you're hiring the right admin, they shouldn't also be okay for a buyer's agent. It's a different profile. So, so you got a little mess going on there, huh?
We need to it's on my list. Don't you worry. It's on my list to figure it out and figure out who goes where and what works best for us. But I thought that was that's kind of why I took this for how do you go about then if someone should just be then a buyer's agent, and then how do you gracefully exit them out of a different role? Like if the listing manager role, because if it's just not working, but you want to keep them on the team. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, I know. I had this team come on board a couple years ago. They were at a $45 million team. Admins were selling. Some admins had huge salaries. It was kind of all over the place. So the first thing we did was we brought them all in. We did behavior profiles. What's the best? So the behavior profile is the first step. You might be able to consult someone from one role into another by going through that KPA validation. And then next thing we did, we had one admin that was making $150,000 a year with an $80,000 base salary, and she was listing support, listing manager, listing assistant type of person. So $80,000 a year, making $150,000 a year, $160,000 a year. We brought her down to a $24,000 salary, from 80 to 24, and adjusted the compensation based on growth in listings sold. Fast forward 2 years, she was making over $250,000 because we adjusted the compensation to make it growth oriented. So a couple of the things you do in these processes is you want as many of the fixed costs to be low fixed, high variable. Low fixed, high variable. That way everyone's kind of succeeding in the production of the business. And then you consult people out. So we had one person we took from an admin to a buyer's agent. And what we did was we kind of weaned them off. We created a 3-month transition plan for them where they went from a 40-hour-a-week admin without being able to sell to 30 hours a week with some selling, to 20 hours a week with some more selling, to 10 hours a week with a lot more selling. So we weaned them from an admin to a buyer's agent over a 3-month plan. So those are some other things you can do to reposition someone on the team.
Okay.
Make sense?
I like that.
Sinead, how long would you keep that showing assistant before promoting the buyer's agent? Without doubt, it's how quick is the team growing, but how quick are they helping you? I mean, let's say I'm closing 20 buyers a year. Well, and this person quickly gets me on track to close 30, 35 buyers a year. You know, that's the kind of growth that would precipitate how quickly I move that person up. I mean, what's the goal? If you have a buyer's agent on your team, how many contracts do you want them writing per month? How many contracts should a buyer's agent on your team write per month? A minimum of 2. A minimum of 2. So Sinead says 3. So a minimum of 2. So once this person is doing enough activity to help me with 2, 3, 4 a month myself, they probably got enough skill to be able to get to 2 themselves. You know, but that showing assistant might also be someone who's more part-time. They've only got 20 hours a week they can put into the business. Maybe they're a stay-at-home mom that's doing this with children at school and getting out on the weekends. This might be someone who's a showing assistant because they've got limited time and they want to make sure they're earning something in that time that they are working.
Michael?
Yeah,
question.
sure.
How about, is it essential to have a transaction coordinator separately from the admin? Because as soon as the transaction is moving into a situation, you would want that whole negotiation with all these people to move into a specific person and the admin taking care of that.
I think what happens, Saru, is between you and your EA, you're doing the transaction coordinating until you get to about 50 transactions. At about 50 transactions a year, 60 transactions a year is when you need a separate transaction coordinator.
Okay.
And in my research, in my experience, a good transaction coordinator should be able to do at least 150 transactions a year, maybe push to 200. So again, you can get to about 50 between you and the EA before you got to spin that off into its own role. And again, to me, a transaction coordinator is a $20,000 to $24,000 a year salary with $250 to $300 kicker per closing. So again, that person has the ability to make comfortably 40 to 50 on that initial 50 transactions. But as you grow, they can make 70, 80, 90, so on and so forth.
Gotcha. Thank you.
How much do I pay a showing assistant, Billy? I typically suggest 25 to 50 bucks an hour, $25 to $50 an hour. And again, here's the thing. You got to make sure you understand your model. Do you have buyer's agency agreements? Are they pre-approved with your mortgage company? You want to make sure you have a high conversion from the buyers you represent to the buyers you go under contract. If you don't have a system in place to make that buyer loyal to you, showing assistant can be very dangerous and very pricey. But me, I use buyer agency agreements and they had to get pre-approved with my mortgage company. So I typically convert about 80 to 85% of my buyers to contracts. So in that case, I know that I'm never going to take a buyer out more than 5 times, which means I'll never spend more than 10 hours on a buyer. So let's just map that out for a second. I do my marker back here. We are. So if I've got a buyer's agent, and again, I'll use the idea of 10 hours. It should be no more than 10 hours on a given transaction. If so, something is missing. So if it's 10 hours at $50 an hour, that's $500 they're going to make on that particular transaction. Now my average price point is $400,000. So that's a $10,000 commission. So this is 5%. right? So I'm only paying them 5% of my total business. And I typically tell people, expect to spend somewhere between 10 and 15, maybe as high as 20. So what I typically do with a showing specialist is it's $50 an hour. And I do this little schedule here where if you're able to put the buyer under contract between 1 and 3 hours, I'm going to pay you a 12% of the transaction kicker. If it's between 3 and 6 hours, or 3 and 5 hours, it's going to go down to 10%. 5 to 7, 7.5%. 7 plus, it's 5%. You with me on this? So 2 things on this. You always, at least where I am, you always pay them through the transaction as well. Because our errors and omissions, in order to protect them, they've got to be on the green sheet. They've got to receive commission from the transaction. They're showing properties. So if I've got this person here, well, in that 1 to 3, they're making $1,200 plus $150. They're making $1,450 on that particular deal. Between 3 and 5, they're making 10%, $1,000 plus 5 times 50, $1,250 at 5 hours out. 5 to 7, they're going to be 7.5%. So that's $750 plus $350. They make about $1,000. So what actually happens here is the lower they keep my fixed cost, the higher they make. The more I go up in fixed cost, the smaller the variable opportunity becomes. So I'm okay paying the most on the least amount of time because this is a low fixed cost. I'd rather spend $100 in hourly and give them an extra $1,300 off the closing than spend $500 in hourly. So again, low fixed cost, high variable. Sam Ratner.
So have you surveyed your buyers to feel that they feel pressured to buy homes quickly and they may not be the right homes? Don't need to answer it, just throwing it out.
No, could that be a concern? Well, here's the thing. With this showing assistant, they're not a high D, they're a high I. They're very warm and fuzzy and exuberant. They're not a used car salesman. So I don't look at the speed at which someone buys being because of the pressure. I look at the speed that someone buys more based on how well we select the homes that they show and listen to what they're saying from a feedback perspective. Again, my listing specialist will be a high D. They'll be a closer. My showing specialist is going to be a high I with a D probably just above the midline. Going back to the old way of saying things with a disc. So, and they're not really high pressure as much. And let's be honest, right now in this market, that's why this also comes up in this market. The showing specialist might lose, well, first of all, the showing specialist doesn't write contracts, but the showing specialist might have to get this buyer to contract 2 or 3 times before they get their house. So let me just explain how I would introduce the showing specialist. Hey, Sam, I'm so happy we just did our whole buyer consultation. I'm so happy that you can be working with a team. We're looking forward to supporting you. Let me introduce you to Billy. Billy's my showing specialist. Billy's going to show you all the homes that you're not going to buy. Once you narrow it down with Billy on the 1 or 2 homes that highly interest you, I'm going to come back. We're going to do a quick preview of that home. We're going to discuss the negotiation strategy, and then I'm going to get you the house. So again, all I'm delegating to Billy is the showing. I own the contract. I own the transaction coordinating. I own the negotiation. I own everything else. Billy's my cab driver. Sorry, Billy. I want to relegate you to cab driver. And actually, the very first time I saw this was probably 2010, 2011. 2010, I went into Austin for Mega Camp. And I'm in a cab. And we've all been in that smelly Austin cab back when they still had cabs, right? Now there's more Uber. But I went into that cab, and this person, hey, now I'm in for Mega Camp, Keller Williams. Oh, he drops down his visor, and he had a stack of his business cards. He goes, I'm a showing specialist for Keller Williams. I'm like, really? what's that look like? It was pretty easy. I work with such and such team out of the Austin office, and they call me and they say, hey, we've got a buyer coming in on the 3 o'clock flight. Please pick them up and show them these 4 houses. I'm like, wow, okay. I pick them up in my cab. I take them. I use my lockbox pad, my keypad. I open up 4 houses for them. I drop them off at the airport. They leave, and I get a check for $1,000 to $1,500 a month later, a month and a half later. All they did was open doors and show the property, and then the team took care of everything else. Thoughts, kind of, since showing assistants don't pay company a dollar. They do, Julie, in my world. I don't have any showing assistants that don't pay company dollar. I might put them on a reduced cap. But I do, everyone pays company dollar. I've never seen a world where a showing assistant wouldn't pay company dollar. Thoughts, comments, questions on CV or any other topics? No holds barred. Any topic you want to talk about?
Good bones.
Hey, so I'll bring something back up since nobody else was talking for you, Michael. Going back to speaking about your org chart earlier, with where we are today in the last, I'll call it last 2 years, database, data bank, whatever you want to call it. That key point person hire is database coordinator, lead coordinator, database manager, which kind of falls in along with that EA side by side, which is driving that business for the team.
Yeah, and that database manager is almost going to be just as much of an ISA, because not only are they going to be managing the database and mailing to the database and marketing to the database, but they're also going to be doing a lot of calling, receiving calls, calling out, hey, calling on behalf of the Ratner Group, want to come and let you know things are going great. Well, what can we do to help you? What can we do to service you? So that's going to be a very organized person, but also an outgoing person, right? So someone not only that will manage it, but will also service the leads coming in, because how much time, when you have a lead come in, an internet lead come in, how much time do you have to respond to that lead?
Moments.
Typically about 3 minutes. Typically about 3 to 4 minutes is how quick you have to respond to that lead, because they're going to visit 10 different brokerages in about 15 minutes on the internet. So you got about 3 to 4 minutes. So yeah, I mean, that database manager is more crucial now than ever, because coming back from that marketing-based business to more of a database business. So a lot of gold in those databases. The team building course again, it was a course that Jackie Ellis used to teach. Tabitha, are they still teaching that course? That's kind of, no, right? That used to be like, that used to be an intro to team building, Saru. That's not really being taught anymore. It was just something that was going around at the time. Final questions, thoughts, comments, or ahas? All right. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure spending the last 2 late mornings, early afternoons with you. You're awesome. You have any questions? Emily, if you're out there, can you throw my email and my cell phone number in the chat, please? Make sure she's out there.
Michael, oh, he left.
My email and cell phone. What? Maureen?
I love this format. I enjoyed it so much, and I believe
Nice.
I got a lot of it because it's more focused, and you can take notes. There's not people walking around. I just liked it a lot.
Awesome. Well, it was funny. I was talking to my wife, and she's saying, oh, it must be really difficult doing it this way, not as many people. And what I'm actually finding is there are more people engaging in this class than if I did it in person, because they don't have to travel. They don't have to get an airfare. They don't have to get a hotel. They don't have to deal with traffic. And I think by making these short 2.5 hour snippets, also make them a lot more, a lot faster, a lot more high energy, a lot more impactful. So I'm glad you think that way, Maureen. I've been enjoying teaching them. I'm going to continue to teach. Probably September, I'll be back to career visioning again. October, I'll come back to 30, 60, 90 and success through others. And I'm going to keep rotating these every other month as we go. And Saru, if you can shoot me an email with your contact information. Occasionally, I do a brief 1.5 hour intro to team building, where I kind of lay out some of that stuff from the Jackie Ellis course and just the 5 things that you need to do if you want to start building a team. It's kind of an intro to the career visioning. The next time I teach that, I'll make sure you're on that calendar. And Emily, if you can check if we have one of those recorded, If I have a recording of one of those that I've taught in the past, I will invite you. Actually, guys, we're going to invite you all to a Dropbox link. We're going to send you out a Dropbox link. During COVID and quarantine, I taught about 40 or 50 classes. I hosted a bunch of speakers, Ben Kinney, Mo Anderson, Gene Rivers, Google Drive link. Emily's, you want to post that in the box now? Emily's going to post my Google Drive box link, my Google Drive in the box. It's going to give you access to all the videos I've taught. For those of you that took career visioning, you already have this link. I gave it to you. For those that didn't, I've got Mariana Rivera. I got Brian Cashman being interviewed by Josh Teen. Mariana being interviewed by Jason Abrams. I've got an interview with Jason Abrams. There's some really cool videos in there. So she will post that link for you. Feel free to join that, save that. You have access to that as a thank you for being on today's call.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me? Awesome. If you see anything in there that you like, shoot me a message. Some of these people will probably start getting on calls again because they were really fun. So thanks for being here. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. So
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. If you want that link, there's the link. If you want to grab it before you leave, there's the link right there. And I'm about to close the Zoom. So if you don't have that link, grab it right now real quick. And I'm closing the Zoom in about 5 seconds.
So Michael, I'm going to send you an email about the course.
Sounds great. michaelbrand@kw.com. I think it's up there in the chat box.
I got that.
Awesome.
I'll do that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Michael.
You got it. So long.